Hello there. For those of us of a certain generation, millennials, growing up in the 90s, there was a plethora of different shows on the TV that you could watch of varying different genres, but particularly in the sci-fi genre, we were absolutely spoiled for choice. And unlike with streaming services now, where you can kind of binge it all at once, or you can easily go back and rewatch it, these were episodic. The kind where when it was on, and when it wasn't, finding it again was near impossible. Some of it actually impossible. Some of it didn't get physical media releases, or was only limited physical media releases in other countries. Then we're not talking the days necessarily before things like eBay were a thing, but before eBay was properly a thing. And getting your hands on international copies or general physical media in the form of VHS tape in a lot of cases was not easy. Not only was it not easy, it was difficult to like ridiculous degrees, because sometimes they had this annoying habit of releasing something with like 2 or 3 episodes on a tape, so you wouldn't even get a full season. But back then we were so spoiled. Farscape, Star Trek, Sequest DSV, and multitude of other shows like Highlander in the fantasy genre, Mortal Kombat the TV show, which was a thing. Basically, there were options. And then there were those that fell through the cracks. There were some awesome and epic shows like Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Babylon 5. And then you had the less awesome but still good things like Sequest DSV and its kin like Sliders. And then you got little gems like The Visitor. The Visitor was a 1997 to 1998 single season show that the basic premise was pretty simple. It wasn't overly complicated. It was pretty formulaic. As you've got this man, Adam MacArthur. He was a pilot who disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle 50 years earlier. So basically in the 1950s at that point, and maybe late 40s. And then he returns to Earth aboard a small alien ship, which I might add is a very cool design on the ship, which is one of the reasons this show's always stuck with me, because I kind of like the design. Little sort of delta-shaped vessel with a little like set of what I can best describe as a pair of bird wing-like designs underneath it, sort of sticking out. Enters the system, is ultimately shot down. Now, he stole the ship from the aliens that abducted him and returns to Earth armed only with compassion and knowledge, with the basic idea that he is going to set things right. He's going to put humanity back on track before it's able to destroy itself. And his job is his mission, should I say, is he's going to find the right people and steer them down the right course. And it's sending out a message about, consumerism, rampant industrialization, destroying the environment, and how we need to protect the world and learn to live in harmony with it, because if we destroy our planet, we destroy ourselves. The message is not unfamiliar to an audience now, or back then, but was part of a series of things that came out around that time, sort of the eco-warrior, eco-friendly ideas in their genesis back then, where they were really pushing this agenda of we've got to protect the planet. Something I completely agree with. Watching shows like this taught me about such wanton destruction of our planet. But he is then hunted, of course, because who is this guy? Where does he come from? Who are the aliens? The aliens are trying to recapture him because their goal was basically steal a load of humans to create a new colony. But the man hasn't aged. The US government, which is now also chasing him, wants to capture him, dead or alive, for study. Because again, he ain't aged, he's been with aliens for a while, he's brought back all his knowledge, but they want to misuse it. He doesn't want anything to do with that, and it's also the drama of this man returning to Earth after so long, and how does he deal with family, his old friends, his old life, when again, he hasn't aged, but the world around him has moved on. He's developed a series of interesting abilities, sort of basic psychic powers, things like that. As I said, it's pretty bog standard sci-fi fare for the 90s, and it only ran for 13 episodes, but considering it's now nearly 30 years later, and I still remember it, it made a bit of an impression. Let me know out there. Has anyone actually watched this show? Because I know it's got a bit of a cult following, but I think this show fell through the cracks a little bit. And I think it had more to it. There was definitely potential in the show. It had a decent enough cast. You had stars like Adam Baldwin are going to be in things like Firefly, Sam Anderson, Tony Amendola. It had a lot of who's who, that guy actor in it from a lot of sci-fi shows back then, because a lot of things back then were all filmed in Vancouver or in similar areas and tended to have a lot of cross-pollination of cast between the different shows. Generally speaking, though, its premise is one that is effectively timeless. Yeah, things have gone on to be better made than this, but the idea behind it, the way that it was presented, the way that it was executed, and the storytelling, although again a bit formulaic, is very much in keeping with something that could easily be made now. But as a basic plot device, as a storytelling method, this series could easily get the reboot treatment and I think be relatively successful now. Yeah, again, it is pretty standard sci-fi fare. It was part of this sort of throw everything at the wall and see what sticks method back in the 90s, and this unfortunately was not one of the shows that stuck. Unlike Crusade and a few other shows that came with contemporaries that just didn't survive the culling of this time period, it has become something of a relic of the 90s. Mostly forgotten, but by those that saw it, I think probably left a positive impression. Just not enough people saw it. But let me know if you did. And do you think it's a kind of show that it definitely couldn't be a continued series, but could easily go on to have a reboot now? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below.